Hello, this is Soccer Disruptors on Morning Kick Around. Next up, we are happy to welcome the owner of a sports management company called Playbook Management International, who's worked with over 100 professional soccer teams, leagues, venues, and events all over the world, including 20 soccer teams, and most recently has been filling up summer soccer stadiums across the country, including 12,000 fans in Annapolis, Maryland. Happy to be joined by Michael Hitchcock. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kick Around, sir.
Hey guys, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for everything you guys do to promote the beautiful game.
I would definitely want to say the same to you. I mean, the reason to bring you on the show is because we obviously, like everybody else, took note of the big numbers that you're getting for some of these teams, like in Annapolis and McKinney, Texas. So I think Hitch, the first thing to ask you is, what are you doing? I mean, can you give us kind of a remedial thumbnail sketch of what Playbook is about, what you're about in investing in these clubs and being part of sort of, you know, the game in the United States, but just the idea of sort of these smaller clubs and building them up?
Yeah, so I've been in the soccer management business for almost 30 years now, which I jokingly say is why I look the way I look. I've been selling soccer in this country for close to 30 years, and love the game, love what the game means to communities, and love the opportunity it provides people, whether it's players, coaches, executives, or supporters. And so it is the beautiful game for a reason, and not just because of what it does on the field, but for me more so what it means in communities and off the field. And so it's always been my passion. I'm lucky enough to be able to have a career working in my passion, and we just we're doing everything we can to grow the game in communities all over the country. And so we try to identify communities that we either feel are underserved from a soccer standpoint, or just have the potential to have a lower division club really provide those passionate supporters a team to support that's got their town on their crest, right, and an opportunity to not have to drive an hour and a half to go see a Major League Soccer game, although they will do that on occasion, but support, high level, lower division soccer in their front or backyard. And what we have found is there's a big market for that. And so our philosophy is make soccer cool, make soccer fun. When you do that, people want to support it. And so, as we all know, we're entering the biggest growth stage in the history of the game in this country, leading up to the 2026 World Cup. And as y'all have been talking about this morning, is the summer soccer is pretty incredible, right? With all the different things happening at so many different levels around this country. And so for us, what we do is we take that and we just make it hyper local. And so we create brands that really connect with the communities of which these clubs are members. We take a community first approach where we invest in giving to the community before we expect them to give back. And where I think we're probably a little bit different and unique than a lot of clubs at this level is because we own a sports management company that gets hired by other teams at all levels in the spectrum to help them out. We've got resources that we can bring to our lower division clubs that probably doesn't fit the business model for teams at this level. And so that allows us to run them at a little bit of a different level, and not being disrespectful to anyone out there. There's incredible clubs doing amazing things with passionate owners. But we've got some additional resources, and what we do is we take a year runway leading up to kicking a ball, and I think a lot of people discount the value of that. And so we're working on this thing for 6 months before we even announce we're bringing a team, and then we take a year runway to connect with the community, to make those meaningful connections. And what we find is when you take that sort of hand to hand approach and connect with fans, they want to support you. They want to be a part of it, and they feel the ownership in the club, which is what you find all over the world, right? People who are, they're fans, but they're truly stakeholders in the club that for generations their family's been supporting.
You kind of touched on it there a little bit. One of my biggest questions. I'm an ardent servant of my local USL team for 7 or 8 years now, and as a lot of the success, you answered it a little bit. Like, do you scout the location of a town that maybe doesn't have any other like live entertainment, or is it what you're doing to connect to the community in that year run in? Like, what would you attribute most of that kind of like activation of those communities? Was it selection ahead of time, or what you're doing on the ground in that run in?
I think it's what you're doing on the ground. I mean, what we have found is smaller markets where you have less competition during that 3 month sort of summer window season, which is where the USL2, NPSL, the League for Clubs plays for the most part, WPSL, W League, and that's really the niche we've identified that we're having a lot of success with. Is that it's about what you're doing in the community. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be real. And you're doing it for all the right reasons. And that doesn't mean you're doing it for the money. You're doing it to grow the game. And when that happens, the money can follow, right? You can have success. And then you just capital to reinvest and keep growing year over year. So we've got a club in Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, Texas, if you don't know where it is 5 hours west of Dallas Fort Worth. Not a traditional soccer market. Texas Tech University is there. So it's a big sports community. And, when some of our first meetings out in Lubbock 4.5 years ago, before we launched the team, people were asking us how many players were on a soccer field. Like there wasn't this savvy soccer market like you have in Annapolis, Maryland. But what we built was something that was really meaningful and connected to the community. And the team's called the Lubbock Matadors. Matadors was the original name of Texas Tech back in the day, but before they rebranded to Red Raiders. And we have created a soccer culture there. And I was there just a couple of weeks ago for a midweek game, and we had 4,207 fans at a midweek game in Lubbock, Texas. And to me, even more important than the number of fans was the passion. And if you would have closed your eyes between the horns, the drums, the chants, the smoke from the flares, you would have thought you were in an international soccer match. And so, there is a way to build a soccer culture in non-traditional soccer markets. And in Lubbock, when Texas Tech baseball ends, you got 3 months until Texas Tech football begins. Now, if we were competing with Texas Tech football, it might be a different ball game, right? But we're fulfilling a need for entertainment, and people find out that soccer's pretty cool, and they connect with the players, who are these very talented, passionate young men who, by the way, do hundreds of player appearances in the community, kicking and reading programs at the library. They're out in the schools when the schools are in session, doing PE, speaking to the kids. They do free clinics. They go to the Boys and Girls Club centers every Monday to, just hang out with the kids and mentor them and play all sports, and including soccer. So when you do those things, people want to support you and they want to be a part of it. And, once again, soccer selling it, 29 years ago is very different than it is today. And then we've got some markets like Annapolis, Maryland, that is a soccer savvy market. It's 45 minutes from Baltimore. It's 45 minutes from Washington, D.C. and, DC United. And we had 12,853 fans at our home opener. And that's like, I think that weekend, if I looked at it correctly, out of the 13 Major League Soccer games, we would have been number 10 in attendance that weekend, right? And I think outside of Major League Soccer, it was, at that time at least, the second biggest attendance to Oakland Roots' big game at the Oakland Coliseum earlier in the year. So, but that is all, you go there, there's 5,000 people tailgating for 4 hours before the game. People will bring a boat, put a DJ on the deck. Like, I mean, it's an event, right? And so when you create that sort of culture, and then you've got these really talented young men and women. We launched a women's team there that's doing really well as well. And afterwards, those players sign autographs for an hour. That's what parents want. That's what kids want. That's what companies want to see, is someone who's really literally using the world's most popular game to give back to their community.
Hitch, the number in Annapolis and us kind of learning about what you've been doing and getting a little bit deeper understanding of how successful some of these teams have been got us thinking, because this is what American soccer fans do. Like we don't just go, oh, that's great, there's a team in Annapolis that's drawing 12,000. We go, what else is possible? And how do we get to a place where every decent sized town in America has a team so we can feel like England or Italy or France or whatever, and then of course link them all together, do pro rel and all that stuff. So we had that question of, is this a situation where a team like Annapolis is showing that there's professional soccer possibilities in there? So I want to know what your philosophy is on that, and whether this always has to have this end game of building to a professional outfit, or if these semi-pro and USL2 and these kind of teams are kind of the point. Like, it doesn't have to be more than that necessarily.
Yeah, I would say if you go to a McKinney Chupacabras game, and we had a game on Thursday night going head to head with the FC Dallas home game, and FC Dallas is 15 miles down the road from where we are in historic McKinney. We sold 3,600 tickets. We had unbelievable weather that hit right before gates were going to open. Just those crazy Texas summer storms. Game was delayed over 90 minutes, and we still had over 2,000 fans stick around to cheer on their hometown team. That tells you that they care, right? They weren't at the FC Dallas game. They feel a connection to their hometown team, and they stuck through some pretty adverse conditions on a midweek, and that to me was a really, really interesting, because we hadn't experienced something like that in a major market where there's no shortage of things to do here, and teams to support at all levels, soccer and other. And so I think that was an interesting tell, that people, when they care about it, they care about it, right? And so for me, the question is going to be, I do think promotion relegations coming to America, which I think will be amazing. I recently sold my National League North team in England, so we had an investment in English lower division soccer as a way of really learning the culture of the game, where the game was invented. And to your point, I've always said, for soccer to become the sport in America, for us to truly become a soccer nation, MLS has to keep doing the things they're doing. Everyone certainly is drafting off them. We need the U.S. men's national team to take it to the next level and really capitalize on this World Cup. But every town in America needs to have a pro or semi-pro team run at a very high level, right? So for the players, that becomes their pro soccer experience. For the fans, they care about that as much as the bigger team that might be in the city next to them. So I think all of those possibilities are there, and we can look like England, where every town, regardless of size, has a pro or semi-pro or high-level amateur team in the 11 division pyramid, right? And can promote or relegate depending on the meritocracy on the field. And so that's coming in the U.S. And so for us, we want to do everything we can. And I've worked for some great visionary leaders in my career, and they always say it's crazy until it works, then it's visionary, right? So we invest in some markets, and they say, "What are you doing? That's crazy." And then when it works, they're like, "Well, I knew it was going to work." Of course. What a no-brainer, and that's just the nature of people. But we just recently launched a team last week in Lynchburg, Virginia, which we think is a really interesting market in the Blue Ridge Mountains. As part of that, we launched a campaign where we have 6 brands that we've created that the community gets to vote for. They get to select the brand, which incorporates the colors and the name of the team. And we've got 700 people that have voted in a week, online and in person. And we're at the farmers markets and the breweries and the cool popular bars. And we have ballot boxes with the ballots set up at all the cool businesses and the soccer locations in town. And that's a year out, right? We're a year out from kicking a ball, but you put the investment in then, we're going to get, a lot of people in Lynchburg to feel connected to this club. And now it becomes theirs, whether it's their team or not. They feel a connection from the very beginning. And then there's a playbook of how we, roll it out and go to market and build the club from there. So I think there's a lot of interesting markets out there that don't currently have a team. There's some markets that probably have a team, but it's more about someone who's, successful at business, passionate about soccer, but just opens the gates and rolls the ball out. And, we've all seen those clubs that, it's friends and family that are there. We don't run it that way. I mean, we rerun it where, the market will tell you how big it's supposed to be. I think, going back to your original question, some of these teams have the potential to go to the next level, and play a longer season. But the nice thing is the market's telling us that, right? We're not falling behind and getting ahead of our skis, as we say, trying to guess, where should this team be in the marketplace. The fans are going to tell you that. The sponsors are going to tell you that. And then with Pro-Rel, you can invest accordingly and hopefully win some games and move up.
You mentioned there one of the biggest things that you found success with is making those community connections and touch points. I was curious to ask you, what's the sort of community outreach and touch point that has most consistently worked in different places? And then did that also translate when you made those sort of efforts with your own overseas teams?
Yeah, so the community outreach is all inclusive. I mean, we literally take the approach of, it's not like we're just marketing and connecting with the soccer community. We're working with all the soccer associations, the soccer clubs. We're on the sidelines with pop-up shops. We're doing free clinics. When we do our voting campaigns, we're literally going to be everywhere in the community, whether it's a farmers market, a youth soccer tournament, a watch party for a Club World Cup match. Like, we're there, right? And that's the investment piece. It's investing in the people, and it's investing in getting out into the community. And I always use the description of, it's like throwing out a boomerang, and you sure as heck hope it comes back, right? Because you're putting a lot of money on that boomerang, and you're making the promotion, and there's no crystal ball in what it's going to become. But the reality is, it's worked everywhere. So I think that model of outreach to community works. So you're working with the city leadership, you're working with county, you're working with school district, you're working with soccer clubs, you're working with the business associations, all the popular businesses. So one of our focuses is always partner with the top local brewery, partner with the top local coffee shop or shops if they own more than one. And those are 2 of the areas that have the greatest sphere of influence for soccer fans. And so there's a kindred spirit when it comes to great craft beer, local, and great local coffee that if you can get them involved, and we do in all of our markets, and often we'll have a co-branded beer with that brewery. Most of our teams have the brewery on the front of the jersey, so that's our co-branded front of the jersey. They're usually the coolest business owners in town and have this really cool sphere of influence, but the coffee shop owners are up there with them, right? So you find the cool people in the market and you partner with them and get them involved and engaged and to become a part of the team.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, those of us who have been around soccer in America for a while know that the craft brewery business and soccer, they coincide. I remember doing a show in Detroit, actually. They took me
Yeah.
out to a craft brewery. Hitch, the last thing I want to ask you, as I'm looking down your list, and okay, Annapolis Blues. I know there's that's a blue crab reference for Maryland. You've got the Chupacabras shirt on right now. You mentioned Lubbock and the Matadors. The imaging, the branding for these teams. I'm curious if you could give us a little bit of a thought on that, because we live in this era where, especially at the top level, teams are popping up or being added to leagues, and it's like blah 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 AFC, and we're not getting anything unique and sort of identifying to the community in terms of the name of the club. You've chosen to go in a different direction in most cases. Why is that?
Yeah, so for me, branding is mission critical to success. I feel especially at the lower division level, it's got to be relevant to the community. It's got to be connected, and so we start with the process where we get key stakeholders in the market, and we call it the friends and family focus group. And we'll start with just identifying lots of cool names and imagery, things that we all feel would or the community feels is representative of the community and something that the community can connect with, and then we'll narrow it down to 4 to 6. And often we'll do this brand development, business development, database development campaign where we'll go out into the community and let the community choose it. And I have to share with you, most times my favorite name doesn't win, so we stay true to the competition. And so Chupacabras was my favorite name, so I'm glad that one won and has done unbelievably well. But when you have something that's cool and it's relevant and that's what the community wants, uh, you sell lots of merchandise. Lots of people are wearing the gear, and so we at the Blues home opener. Once again, 12,853 fans. We are entertaining some key soccer leaders from around the country because we wanted them to experience what's happening at lower division soccer, and they were blown away with probably 10,000 people were wearing a Blues jersey or some item before the match out at the tailgate party, and that's because it's cool and they voted for it and they wanted it and it represents the community. So yeah, so for me, the branding is really important. We view merchandise as marketing that people pay you for. So make sure it's cool looking stuff. A lot of our teams partner with Puma. Puma's very fashionable. It's where football meets fashion. That's very strategic. But our branding, whether it's the primary logo, the word marks, the imagery, we own a branding agency. We went and partnered with a marketing agency, and it's called Tifo Branding. We just do soccer branding. So we have our own branding agency that, once again, is a resource that a lot of teams at this level wouldn't have, that helps us just create really cool stuff and know what's popular and what's coming and sort of finger on the pulse. But yeah, having it hyper local is to us probably the most important thing.
Uh, there's so much to cover there. Thank you so much for all that insight. I want to say thank you to Homeless Shoe for becoming a new member during this segment. But I wanted to ask, you got so many teams in action. You have, I think, 20 across all the levels. The segment leading into this was the Fab Four of the weekend. You could probably have a Fab Four of your own. What are you keeping your eye on in your sphere of influence this weekend?
You got to pick one. You're going to make this man pick between his kids? Like, that feels wrong, Rob.
Maybe two of them are playing each other. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. It's exactly like your children, and as a father myself, and you don't have a favorite. You love them all for different reasons. I would say this weekend, our team Lubbock is traveling to Oklahoma City. If they win, they have a chance to secure home field advantage in the playoffs. That means I think we could get 7,000 fans in a rally town like Lubbock. It's almost Lubbock versus all y'all, right? So when you get to playoffs, it's a big deal. I mean, we witnessed that with Texas Tech women's softball. That community, they were the biggest softball fans in the world during that World Series run. So big game for Lubbock. In Boone, we have a team called Appalachian FC, which is the Bigfoot brand. They've got a really big home game this weekend against Bristol. So it's it was fan appreciation night, and then our chief marketing officer Bigfoot came in and turned it into Squatch appreciation night. So that's always fun with a lot of cool promotions with Mass General Store. So those are two big ones. We got a big doubleheader in Annapolis with the men's and the women's team. Women just secured home field advantage in the playoffs, so it'll be a big end of year sort of celebration for them because they won the division championship in their expansion year. And then the men are battling for a playoff spot in their first season in USL2. So and many others are playing this weekend. So yeah, we'll be tuned in and flipping between all the games and watching them all.
Well, Michael Hitchcock, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kick Around, giving us kind of a breakdown on all the exciting news and clubs across this country. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us here on Morning Kick Around.
We need like a documentary. We need a camera crew to follow Hitch so we can get a really behind the scenes of how this is all happening. This is incredible to me. It's like a meme. You're like doing math in your head I can't even fathom. Hitch, thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate having us on, and once again, thanks for everything you do for the game. And if you guys ever want to partner on a market, let's find a market and work together, and let's maybe we do document that and share the story. It's fascinating. It's a lot of hard work. It's like anything else. Our philosophy is good people, good plan, good execution. You get good people involved. We've been doing this long enough and have the gray hairs. We know how to build the plan, and then you create a culture to execute the plan and build something really fun for the community. So that's the model.